gonna be great high-level match for sure, and I'm gonna kick his ass. That's 100%.
And entertainment, but I wouldn't say that had anything to do with like social change or any important topics. I think the name was just the same as the one from the Beijing King, match, and that's it. Like there were no more similarities because I feel like women's tennis stands on its own right now, and we have so many great athletes and great stories to present. We don't necessarily need to compare to men's tennis. It's a totally different.
Iga Świątek has finally spoken out about Aryna Sabalenka's so-called Battle of the Sexes match, and she did not hold back. The world number 2 made it clear that, in her view, this event had nothing to do with social progress or uplifting women's tennis. Instead, Swiatek suggested it was simply a publicity stunt, a spectacle designed to grab headlines rather than create meaningful change in the sport. In what many are calling a masterclass in subtle shade, Iga pointed out that the only thing this match shared with Billie Jean King's iconic 1973 Battle of the Sexes was the name itself. And it's hard to argue with that comparison. When Billie Jean King faced Bobby Riggs, it wasn't about attention or entertainment. It was about respect, equality, and proving that women deserved equal opportunities and recognition in professional sports. That moment became a cultural milestone far beyond tennis. According to Swiatek, however, Sabalenka's match lacked that deeper purpose. Instead of representing progress, she implied it felt more like an attempt to stay in the spotlight, especially during a period when on-court performances may not have been generating the same level of buzz. Swiatek's critique wasn't just about the event, it targeted the motivation behind it. Her comments suggested that these types of exhibition matches don't unite fans or advance the sport. Rather, they risk creating unnecessary division by focusing on gender differences instead of celebrating the talent, competitiveness, and beauty of tennis across both tours. In the end, Iga's message was clear. True impact in tennis comes from performance, integrity, and progress, not from spectacle.
Compared to men's tennis, it's a totally different, story. And I think, honestly, there doesn't need to be any competition. I think actually events like this one, United Cup, brings tennis all together, and WTA fans and ATP fans can watch this.
Iga specifically pointed to the United Cup as the perfect example of what tennis should represent. In events like the United Cup, men and women compete side by side under one flag, fighting for their country as a united team. They support one another, celebrate each other's victories, and share the pressure of representing something bigger than themselves. That's the kind of format that truly moves the sport forward. Instead of separating the tours or highlighting physical differences, competitions like this showcase partnership, unity, and mutual respect. They prove that men's and women's tennis don't need to compete against each other to create excitement. They can stand together and elevate the entire sport. According to Swiatek's perspective, this is how you inspire the next generation. This is how you grow the game globally, not through spectacles built around contrast, but through events built around collaboration and shared achievement.
So much excitement, seeing also singles players that usually don't have space, to play mixed doubles together, playing these kind of matches. I think this is actually what makes our sport much.
Instead, Sabalenka's so-called Battle of the Sexes match appeared to do the exact opposite of what events like the United Cup stand for. Rather than fostering unity, it created an us versus them atmosphere. It invited comparisons that simply didn't need to be made and reopened debates the tennis world has been trying to move past for years. From Swiatek's perspective, the criticism felt justified. At the end of the day, this match didn't serve a meaningful social purpose. It became a distraction, a sideshow that pulled attention away from the real competition on tour and from the genuine issues the sport continues to face. If you want proof of the division she was alluding to, all you have to do is scroll through social media and comment sections after the announcement. The discourse quickly turned toxic. Instead of celebrating athletic excellence, fans were arguing about whether men could beat women, whether women's tennis deserved equal respect, and revisiting tired debates that have haunted the sport for decades. Ironically, Those were the very conversations Billie Jean King's original 1973 match was meant to settle, not reignite. But the controversy didn't stop there. Sabalenka didn't just participate in the match. She actively promoted it with bold media appearances that left many in the tennis community uncomfortable. In interviews leading up to the event, she portrayed herself as someone who could genuinely compete with top male players. In one particularly talked about moment, she even called out Nick Kyrgios directly, claiming she would kick his ass if given the opportunity. Now, competitive banter is part of sport. Trash talk can generate hype, but this felt different. These weren't just playful jabs. They were statements that many interpreted as challenging the legitimacy and superiority of the men's tour. Confidence is admirable, but comments like those created a no-win scenario. No matter the outcome, the result risked sparking backlash. If she lost, critics would mock the attempt. If she won, it could fuel even more hostility and tension. The seriousness of the situation became clear when Nick Kyrgios revealed in a pre-match interview that he had received messages from top male professionals urging him not to lose. Think about that for a moment. Elite players, some of the best in the world, felt that this exhibition carried symbolic weight for the entire men's tour. That kind of pressure says everything about how charged and divisive the event had become. And that, perhaps, is exactly the point Swiatek was trying to make. Nick Kyrgios later admitted that he felt the pressure more than ever. This wasn't just another exhibition for him. It had transformed into something much bigger, almost a referendum on men's tennis itself. Sabalenka's bold trash talk hadn't just hyped the match, it had struck a nerve. For some male players, it felt less like playful banter and more like a challenge to their professional credibility. And here's the tragic irony. Many male tennis stars have consistently supported women's tennis. They've advocated for equal prize money. They've praised the talent and competitiveness of the WTA Tour. They've publicly defended female athletes and pushed for greater respect across the sport. But when the narrative shifts from individual competition to gender superiority, it risks alienating the very allies who have stood beside you. When you frame it as, "I'm going to beat you," that's competition. When it becomes, "I'm going to beat you to prove something about men versus women," that's something entirely different. And then came the match itself. The result was exactly what most experts predicted, but that didn't make it any less damaging. Kyrgios defeated Sabalenka decisively in straight sets. It wasn't close. It wasn't a thriller. It was a comprehensive victory that left no ambiguity about the outcome. For Sabalenka personally, it was a humbling moment. After the interviews, the confidence, the bold declarations, she was thoroughly outplayed on court. But the fallout went beyond one player. The lopsided result became ammunition for critics who already doubted women's tennis. It handed them a talking point. "See? We told you so." That's what made the situation so frustrating. Instead of elevating the women's game, the spectacle unintentionally reinforced tired arguments that the sport has worked for decades to move beyond. The reality is this: cross-gender challenge matches are almost always a no-win scenario. The physical differences between male and female professional athletes are well documented. Acknowledging that reality doesn't diminish the extraordinary skill, athleticism, or competitiveness of women's tennis. The WTA showcases world-class talent and compelling rivalries on its own terms. But when you promote a match with inflammatory comments, frame it as a battle for dominance, and then lose decisively, the narrative becomes difficult to control. Highlight clips live forever. Social media doesn't forget. And the discourse that follows can overshadow years of progress. That's the lasting impact people are talking about. Even though Sabalenka continues to dominate on the WTA Tour and remains one of its most successful and powerful competitors, many believe agreeing to and promoting this event the way she did was a serious miscalculation. Which brings it back to Swiatek's criticism. From her perspective, this wasn't about courage or competition. It was about optics. It was about whether the event pushed the sport forward or pulled it backward. In her view, it created division instead of unity, headlines instead of progress. Billie Jean King's historic 1973 match was about equality and social change. This one, critics argue it was about spectacle and the spectacle backfired. Now the real question is yours. Was Swiatek right to criticize the match? Should these cross-gender exhibitions even happen? Let me know your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more in-depth tennis analysis and drama. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.